I thought she was coming.
Oh,
No, she didn't give me anything.
okay.
Okay.
So then you have a new one for everybody? Everybody have?
I printed,
I-
sent out to.
I'll go up and
Your memo?
talk to Leslie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can look on the screen.
Okay, I can share it with you.
Oh, that was.
It might have been in the phone.
I made you copies. I'm gonna run up and make the rest of them.
Recording for your program.
Yeah, yep, I just need speakers as the owl, audio settings plain to me, and, yep, that's all set, okay.
Yeah.
Can someone on screen
Indicate that they can hear us.
Twice.
Kathy, can you hear us? Yes. Okay,
Okay,
good,
perfect,
thank you.
thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting of the Shutesbury Selectboard to order. Today is Tuesday, October 8th, 2024, and this is a hybrid meeting being held. Select Board is meeting at the Town Hall, and we have 4 individuals who have joined us this evening in person. And I just wanted to start off by introducing Abby Hernandez, who is our new administrative secretary. And we're very happy to have Abby. She has, this is just her second week, so we appointed Abby at our last meeting, and she started last week. Abby's recently moved to Shutesbury and has 3 children in the elementary school range of ages. So great to have you with us. I'll first go over the agenda, and then we will move into the meeting. So first on the agenda is public comment. Then we have 2 sets of select board minutes from September 10th and September 24th. Then we will be meeting with the assessors to determine the means tested senior exemption percentage. Then we'll have a discussion about the select board meeting room, select board guide board update. After that, we will set the special town meeting for November 19th at 6 p.m. Then we had a request regarding the Northern Trail study and a request for the select board support. At 6:35, we have a discussion. We've been asked for a right of entry to the Army Corps of Engineers to gain access to Lot 032. Then we have, on the original agenda, it said select board meeting room update, but that was just, that was up here twice. We have to do the election warrant for the November election. And then lastly, we have town administrator transition plans and TA updates. So we'll go ahead and get launched in terms of public comment. For most of you, I think, have been at meetings before, but what we do with public comment is ask that folks keep their comments to 2 or 3 minutes. We don't engage in a discussion during public comment. It's simply a public comment period. And if something's on the agenda that you want to address, I wouldn't bring it up during public comment. We will try to take your comments during that particular topic when it comes up on the agenda, assuming we have time. The first item is public comment. If you do have a public comment, I ask that you use the raised hand feature. And for those of you who are in the room, you can use your raised hand feature. This is your new feature. So we'll go ahead and open up for public comments. Susie.
I want to comment on the news that our town administrator is looking at another job in Sunderland. And I want to mention that if you look at the agendas that have come in front of the select board meetings, you'll see that there are an incredible array of tasks and a lot of them. And I also feel it's significant that we live in a culture of criticism, and that takes time to respond to, and I feel like that has taken a lot of time for all the people involved in town government, including our town administrator. Our town administrator does staff support and volunteer support, and that is a very demanding part of her job. And I feel like we're at a change point. So I recommend that the select board work together with the personnel board and the town administrator to review the job description and the tasks that are in the lap of the town administrator, and work together to review it and make a job that has better parameters, better workload, and has a greater chance of success for the new person.
Thanks, Susie. Other public comments? Going once, going twice, no other public comments? Okay, all right, we will go ahead and move on then to the two sets of select board minutes, September 10th and September 24th. Both of which I think, Abby, you did, is that correct? Yes. Good, thank you. So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of September 10th, 2024?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion, any changes? I did go through both sets, I didn't have anything. Melissa, you didn't have anything? Okay. All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes of September 10th, please signify by saying aye.
Thank you, Sonia, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Second set of minutes is September 24th, 2024. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of September 24th?
So moved.
Second.
Any corrections, additions, deletions? Y'all all set?
All set.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Thank you, Sonia, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. And thank you again, Abby. Great start. The next item on the agenda is for the select board to meet with the assessors regarding the means tested senior exemption percentage. And David Burgess is here, who's our administrative assessor. And is that your title? You know, he's the guy me and Leslie are key people in the assessor's office. And April, you are an assessor, correct? Yes. All right. So we have an assessor here too. I know last year, David, if I'm not mistaken, was the first year that we did this means tested called circuit breaker exemption. And it's an exemption that income eligible and age eligible. It's income and age eligible residents are able to take advantage of. And I'm just going to give the really general explanation, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But that with this senior tax exemption, if you're low income and you are a senior, you can get a break on your property tax, and whatever break is given, and we're going to talk about that percentage tonight, is then spread out over, is put onto the tax rate, so that to the residential tax rate, so that if we were giving an exemption, I'm just going to use a round figure of $10,000 to those individuals who are eligible, then that $10,000 gets calculated into the tax rate for everybody else in town. Is that, okay. So, I'm gonna turn it over to you. This was a really good explanation that, you provided to the select board about where we are, but maybe you could start by talking about, anything that I didn't touch base on, about the circuit breaker, and then where we are with the tax rate.
Okay, well, you covered just about really well, it's just to add on a couple of things not saying.
Okay,
Tonight, we're gonna talk about a tax rate that we expect to be $15.99 a thousand, which is down from last year, which was $17.81, so it's down to an 80. I can't give you that for sure now, because we've got a whole process to go through. We've got to go to the Department of Revenue, and we have one more piece of paperwork to get signed off by them, and then we'll be talking about the classification workshop, the next thing we talk about here. Because Gail has more or less got the whole tax recap sheet sorted out, so we're in good shape there. But so that's it, the tax rate will be going down. This year, on the circuit breaker amount, the amount of the circuit breaker went up significantly from the state, from 1250 to 2,500.
27.
so that's the maximum is, that you can get.
Per person from the state, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that makes a big difference on the exemption amounts. Last year you granted 100% of the value of the,
Oh, we did,
you
okay.
did, which this year
I thought it was.
is roughly the same as 50% of this year's amount.
Uh-huh.
And you're allowed to, the tax rate can vary from anywhere from 0 to 100%. Sorry, 200%.
300%?
Two.
200%, okay.
Always have trouble with a 2 for some reason. So basically, the amounts that we're talking about that we could be exempting are going from $4,326 to $34,608. That's a big difference.
Yes,
If you wanted to keep the same dollar amount that there was last year, that would be the 50% level. Now, 75% level is 12, up slightly, obviously 50% more, is 12,978. The assessors did not make a recommendation because we were discussing between 15 and 75%. I think we all come down to the fact that 75% could be it, but still, the other exemptions people get do not go up in value. They're not going to get anything more. But this would offset, these people are already hurt considerably, so this would offset them at the 75%. So we are talking between 50 and 75%. At that 75% rate, the tax rate for the residential class would go to $16.07 instead of $15.99. As you point out, this is spread over the people's tax rate. It does not come out of the overlay,
right.
so it's an SE. It has to be approved here before we go for the tax roll.
So, questions? Melissa? Eric?
I would have no objection if it's going to 75%. That's, I guess I would say that.
I just had a question about the drop in the tax rate. I know that's not what we're talking about tonight, but is that because valuations have gone up so significantly?
Significantly, and because we also get personal property valuations up this year dramatically, because we had a huge increase from the power company.
Okay,
In
from
fact,
National Grid?
Yes.
It's also impacting our new growth significantly
Yeah,
for this year. So it's gone up, and the more it goes up, the
lower the rate.
rate.
Yes, yeah.
So-
Yeah, that was just, so what did you say, it was 17 something?
1781.
Most, yeah,
Okay, that's a big.
Why did the power companies, why did it go up so much?
Wires.
All the work
Power
that
company
the
wires.
3 phase.
it's all considered personal property.
Okay.
And with personal property then are the wires and all the work they do on the ground. There has been significant increase in the electric upgrade this year. anything they take away, they replace, and that's all new growth. That's all new value. So basically, it's all coming from them. I think it's somewhere about 4.5 to $5 million.
Wow.
4.3.
Wow.
Yeah, 4.5, so it's a significant increase.
And does that depreciate over time?
It will.
So we get a depreciation schedule from the power company,
Yeah,
or?
the power company, we rely on them to tell us what they're getting. Now, the last few years, the rules have changed. We used to just take the net book value. We now work with them, and they have devised a formula where we get slightly more
I see.
than they will ask.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit, they're good neighbors, if you will,
Yes, yeah, well, that's a big,
and we need them.
big boost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
useful.
So you said that the assessors didn't make any we're talking between 50 and 75, but didn't come up with a recommendation.
That was a discussion,
Was the, Leslie, go ahead.
I have received input from assessors just in the office since the meeting, and one comment was concerned that we try to hold this amount that we give as even as possible for prediction purposes over the years. That was from an assessor since David was last in the office and since we've had a meeting. And one other concern was maybe even consideration of a cap in the future if the state circuit breaker amount rises as dramatically as it has, because we want predictability in the budget. So I think I've stated enough of what the two other members of the board have stated individually to me since David was last in the office. But there was no vote at the meeting.
Okay.
The other thing I would like to add to that, and Leslie and I discussed this, you always have control over that, because we can go lower than 50. So if you want to keep it level at a dollar amount, you can.
Right. Okay. Was that any questions or comments?
Although I do appreciate the nice explanation.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
yeah, no, that's great. So
I just
last
put the
year we
numbers
did,
on Leslie, does a lot of work.
last year we did 50, but it was closer to the 4,000.
Last year we did 100. which
Oh, we
was
did
closer to
100, that's right, I'm sorry.
Closer to the 8, it was,
8,000.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, I can see the logic in trying to keep it, and not doing a great variation from year to year. How do you guys feel?
Planning is helpful.
Okay.
I mean, we know we do that at school, we try to get it so it's not doing this, so, yeah, I think it does.
Yes, so the budgets are going up.
Right,
Yeah, I think that's enough.
Okay, so does somebody want to make a motion regarding the means test exception amount?
Sure, I move we have the circuit breaker allowance be 50%.
Second?
Okay, is there any further discussion? Any questions from any of folks who are here? Okay, we have a motion and a second to do the circuit breaker allowance at 50%. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Make peace with the aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Thank you very much for coming in and for the excellent explanation.
They'll be the same shape next year.
Okay, yeah, why not? It worked this year.
New number.
Yeah, new numbers, right, exactly.
Those utility trucks roll into town.
And I just have one other question. How do people find out about it? Like, how do property owners?
Well, generally, we advertise it in the little bulletin you have here,
Uh-huh,
and they have until the 1st of August to the 31st of August each year to file.
okay,
And this year we have 8, and I think all but one are the same as last year. I think we have an increase of 1.
okay,
So, And I don't know if Leslie puts it anywhere else on the website or not.
No, but whenever people call, about their taxes, I send out the information, it is all on the website.
It is on the website, okay, just wanted to make sure that was available for people who, if somebody's new to town and they don't know. So, okay,
The important qualification for this one is you have to have received the circuit breaker credit on your previous year's state income tax.
oh, okay,
And there is also qualification for not a lot of assets, not exceptional assets.
so there's an asset test as well as an income test.
And no income test, it's a circuit breaker. If you qualify for the circuit breaker on your previous
I
year's
see, I
income
see.
tax.
Oh, on your income tax, okay, all right, okay, good. All right, thank you, David, Leslie, April. Welcome to stay. So we're a few minutes ahead of schedule. Was Steve Dalmas coming this evening?
He said he tried to come, so that's
Okay.
quoting on that, tried to come.
Okay, did
He
we
told me
wanna?
this morning he was coming.
He was, okay. All right, so then maybe we'll pass over that for now and talk about the guide board. Is that all
Well, I was
right?
gonna come to that too.
Who was? Stephen?
I'll just text him.
Oh, okay, why don't you text and see, because we can wait.
How about set town meeting, special town meeting?
We can do that.
And we also need to set a classification hearing for the assessor.
Oh, all right, why don't we just go ahead and do that right now?
We could probably do both.
Okay, set the classification
The
hearing.
classification hearing, we're recommending, I know we talked about meeting on November 6th, the day after election day.
Yeah,
But in conversation with Rita today about the special town meeting, it seems important to meet on the 4th, on the Monday. Is that possible? Is that a possibility?
so part of I was asking Becky about when the warrant would close for the special town meeting, and it would be election day. So we're having it on the 19th, it would have to close on election day, we're not gonna meet on election day, therefore, my sense, you're gonna be gone for our next meeting, and then you're back, and that it would be better if we finalize the warrant on that Monday, and that gives us the 2 weeks notice, right? And I know Mondays aren't great for you.
Whatever, I understand, that's fine.
That would be all right.
So Monday the 7th.
It's Monday, no, this is November.
It's the 4th.
Monday the 4th.
So that's our meeting, that's just change our meeting from Wednesday to Monday. I'm sorry.
From Wednesday, yeah, we're gonna do it on
Wednesday.
Wednesday the 6th, so meet on Monday, November 4th. And that is the classification hearing is about commercial and residential, right? Whether or not we have a different tax rate, which I don't think we've ever had. No.
We've had a lot of discussion.
Yes, a lot of discussion, but no, we've never done it. So, do you want to do 5:30 or 6? I don't care. Tonight's meeting, just FYI, was to accommodate me, so I appreciate everybody meeting
I wouldn't be able
earlier.
to meet at 5, I'd have to have a few more minutes.
Okay, but we could do 6 o'clock. I'd like to keep the meetings as sort of regular as possible,
Yeah,
so
6
people
is-
aren't guessing.
is
So 6 o'clock. So 6 o'clock, and will that interfere, Becky, with any kind of setup here? When does the setup happen, that evening?
Oh.
Yeah.
We can still meet in the center of the room, or we could meet in the.
Could we meet in there?
Or we could all be on Zoom. We had to.
Okay, because it's,
I know you
yeah.
don't want to. But we could, both rooms could be in setup, you're right.
Yeah, we just need a center of a room, right, just the middle of it. So.
We wouldn't,
The
in the
kitchen.
conference.
We've been there before.
upstairs.
I'm sorry?
We'd have to meet in the conference room upstairs.
Yeah, I know that, because both rooms are used. And what is the setup for the election usually done during the day or in the evening? It doesn't matter, it's the
It's
setup,
probably
right?
the evening, but we're meeting in the evening.
Right.
What happens if we use the school for
The school for our meeting? Every time I've asked the school about a meeting space,
them? We have different schools though.
I asked her. Because they have the preschool, what used to be the conference room. You can do it in the library. And I believe I know on Tuesday nights they're doing pickleball there now. I don't know Monday nights. We could potentially use the library at the school. So I think they're
I
conference.
have a different idea.
Yeah.
You might not like it at all. I was wondering, instead of maybe meeting the Thursday before,
Okay, that is
The
Halloween.
Sorry.
Oh, perfect. Sorry, I should have.
We could put a
I
costume.
want my side of the donuts, not a select board meeting.
Oh, Stephen is here. We dilly-dally
Okay.
going the
All right, I know. Grace, do you have something to add to this discussion?
Regarding Halloween, we're gonna be having in-person early voting in the room that night.
On Halloween?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
decided not to do that.
Okay, well, we're not
We
gonna
got
do
over
next
that
week.
What
pretty
about
quickly.
Wednesday the 30th? Does that work?
Wednesday, the
Avoid
30th. When do you get
Halloween.
back?
That'd be 26, I think, so yeah,
Okay.
works for me.
Wednesday, the 30th, so that's a week, that's a week early, and I guess if we have to do something, we could do it. Is Wednesday the 30th? Okay.
So we're going to have early voting set up in that room from the 19th until November 1st. So let's see, the 30th, with the 30th, we are doing it from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. We can clean it up and put it all away so that you guys can have the room that evening.
We could try to have our footprint be as small as possible,
Yeah.
so you don't have to put everything away. You know, we could sort of
Only what you
squeeze
have
in.
to do for safety, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so, so we're back to Wednesday, October 30th at 6 p.m. Is that okay?
Okay.
I don't think I have more tickets till later.
We better make sure David's available.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
To
let's
do
do
the
that.
classification.
All right, we
But
can,
that sounds good.
all right. Okay. Yeah, why don't you check and then we can just,
Well, here, let me offer another thought.
Yeah.
This is another crazy thought, okay? So what happens, because I could adjust my work schedule, the 31st, what happens if we do it in the afternoon? Would that make it easier for David and the assessor? Before Halloween gets kicked off? I don't know, it was just a thought.
The whole meeting?
It may be everybody.
It works.
David, we have a question. Miriam, did you have a question?
Yes, I think you're talking about when you're going to be closing the warrant for the special town meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, so we would be signing the warrant, that's correct.
But there is an effort to collect signatures for a citizen's petition for the special town meeting. So I'm wondering when it needs to be turned in to the town clerk in order to allow enough time for it to get certified and sent to the select board.
Grace, can you answer that for Miriam? So if we were looking at the 30th, what would the deadline be for the, for certifying a citizen's petition for the warrant?
So the deadline is to submit it to the select board.
Okay.
There isn't really a deadline for submitting it to the town clerk. Let me look at the calendar. I would say,
Don't you have to verify the signatures?
yes, I do. There isn't an MGL that has a deadline that would apply. Looking at the calendar, you need at least 100 signatures for a special town meeting petition.
Is that to have a special town meeting, or is that for an article on the special town?
That's
meeting?
for an article
You
at
have
a
to have
special town meeting.
It's higher for.
Oh, I didn't realize
No,
that.
no, it's 200 for.
Yeah, it's 200 to call a special town meeting, regardless of the select board. It's 100 signatures to put an article on a special town meeting warrant that's a citizen petition, and then it's 10 signatures to put a citizen petition on an annual town meeting. I am looking at the calendar. I would ask that signatures be submitted to my office by the 29th, so 2 days before, or the day before the 30th. At least, so that we have at least 24 hours to verify those signatures. But that would just be be my request. It's not a requirement. The only requirement is to submit the citizen petition to the select board by the time they decide on the warrant.
Okay. And Grace, can I ask a question just to clarify? Those are signatures of Shutesbury registered voters, not area registered voters? Just
Correct.
Shutesbury?
Yeah. And they have to be handwritten. The petition papers are available from my office. Someone just needs to come and pick them up.
Okay, so we're talking about having any petitions in on the 29th of October, and the select board at a Wednesday meeting, finishing the warrant. Miriam, did that answer your question?
Yes, that's great. And we're using a form that is using the same template that's been used in a number of other citizens petitions in the last couple of years. So I think we have the correct form. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So we kind of got off the topic here, but you'll let us know if David Burgess is available for the 30th, Becky, when he gets back to you. Okay. So we'll set that as tentative. Yeah. Go ahead.
I just wanted to alert the personnel board that they have a quorum present.
Oh. They have
Just
a quorum
alerting you.
present. Okay. Do you want to call yourselves to order?
Well, they're not posted.
They're not posted.
Oh, you're not posted.
I'm just alerting them so they can try to avoid it.
Okay.
An open meeting law complaint by not speaking to.
Okay. Okay.
All
All right.
We'll remind ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if we have a subject for you to speak to.
Okay.
And if you can't stay quiet, you can leave.
Okay.
Right.
You can't say quiet.
That's always an option.
That's good, right?
You can scream in the hall. We'll get the masking tape out. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is select board meeting room, and I know Eric has been taking the lead, and Steve Dalmas is here with us this evening too. This kind of started with select board just talking about, we've had lots of problems in terms of sound. I think we've resolved some of that with some adjustments. Thank you, Melissa and Becky, with adjustments to, how we use the owl, but there's still lots that could be done in this select board meeting room in terms of just sound and aesthetics, I guess you would say. So Eric, do you want to just talk about what you and Steve have?
Sure, we just met very briefly, Steve and I, the other day, to look at this room and what we could do to it, to make it, well, just to spiff it up, I guess you see it, for phrase. And also means sort of to make it more studio-like, that is to say, that as we suggested, like the sound is better and stuff like that. And we came up with a couple of ideas that could be done. Of course, it kind of, veered off into like, well, what do we do with all the records? Maybe this brings up the record issue again, which is that's a whole nother can of worms. But anyway, we did have some suggestions about things that could be done to this room. Maybe Steve, do you want to just articulate what your thoughts were? You're muted, Steve.
So Steve is the chairperson of the Shutesbury Building Committee.
How's that? Is that a little better?
Yes.
That's better, thank you.
Well, you brought up about the sound, which I wasn't aware of, but I think one of the first things is to try and deal with the items that are stored down there, which I feel, that may need to be done, but I think they could be consolidated, reorganized in a way to use up less space. And then they could be, quote, covered by installing some heavy curtains, which would start to help deal with the sound. And then the other thing, the heating pipes with the black insulation on them are, very noticeable, not necessarily attractive. And they could easily be sprayed, except for where there's a control, which would, by spraying them the same color, they would have a tendency to disappear. And I mean, you could always spend a lot more and encapsulate them. I mean, enclose them somehow. But that's going to be pretty involved. And they'd have to certain things would have to remain accessible as well. But I even thought, right now the large screen sits on a table, and if that was on say a mobile base, that boxes, right now there are boxes of files stored under it, which would actually be good to still have in a mobile base to keep it from being tipsy. But it would allow you to adjust that, and if you did have a mobile base, something that could be fairly simply constructed, I think, with some very simple doors, that could be, say, brought forward somewhat, and then the curtains could be drawn behind it, assuming you have the curtains. And I think, on two walls, that wall and the wall that adjoins the storage room where the well is, if that also had a curtain, that would really change, I think, the sense of the space quite a bit.
I think so.
Thanks, Steve. So the one, I think maybe the next step is just preparing a write-up for what we might do in here, and then trying to figure out what it would cost us. So the select board has a small budget of what, 2,000 or 2,500? 2,000. That could potentially be dedicated to any work we did in here. I know in the past there were volunteers who did the senior
Yes,
lounge.
that was all done with volunteers except for the floor. So all the paint, all of the things that were taken out, the rug, everything, including the odd channel that we found in the floor with a cast iron steam plate. Was filled in with volunteer, but the only thing, the floor needed leveling, and it was a bit beyond what the capabilities of the group had. But that was the only thing that was not done with volunteers. I'm happy to try to get those if we need them.
Yeah, so if we came up with some general specs on what we would do, and then figure out what could be done with volunteers, and whether or not we need any outside professional assistance. It doesn't sound like it from what we're talking about, but one of my pet peeves is that wall. And which I think must have had a blackboard, right? Is that, and that might take some I don't know, sheetrock or something that, or some sort of
Well,
a
if we had-
bulletin
if we
board
had
or.
a curtain, you would know.
Behind a curtain, yeah.
We should paint it too, just for.
Yeah.
Just say.
Right, so I guess we could come up with, various levels of
Sure.
work that we would do and then see.
Did like the suggestion of them making that mobile, so
Yeah,
that
yeah, I
if we
think
needed
that's,
a room or more people, we could move that where we needed it.
it's not, is it attached to a bunch of wires back there?
No, it's just the plug cord and then this one. the
Okay,
one that I
so,
use.
yeah, no, I think that's a great,
There's not a lot of cords there.
so you're talking about something that rolls, Steve? Like a,
That was my thought, because then, that could be brought forward if you wanted. If you wanted to then have a curtain go behind it when there's a meeting, and then after the meeting, curtain can come back, and then it can go back into more of a, we'll say a recess.
right,
The wall that you're talking about, the eyesore wall, I think with a little bit of very little, prep, if you just painted it, the same color, it'll
yeah.
pretty much disappear. I mean, if you're going to get up close to it, then, it being perfectly smooth would be important. But I think that it's almost at a point where you could just put a primer and a paint on it.
Okay, and we're not concerned with any lead paint or anything down here, right? There's. I'm just curious.
Well,
We've
I've
said-
learned recently
Yeah,
that buildings what were built
Yeah.
prior to 1978 are a high percentage of lead
Yeah.
in paint.
Well, I would just interject that the highest percentage would be buildings built somewhere in the 50s. And then I'm not going to rule out the possibility, but after 1950, lead started to be taken out of a lot of the paints. Latex paints came on. So if it was 1950, I'd say high probability, or before, between then and 77, 78, a lot less.
It
Right,
was built in 1950,
this building was,
yes.
and, yeah, it's just more if we're doing any kind of wall prep and any kind of sanding, I would want to know that there wasn't lead paint there, because and if there was lead paint, basically what they do in both, sometimes in residential and in commercial, they just encapsulate it, so they stabilize it and make sure, and that would then call for putting something over it. But
We could also think of a whiteboard there too.
Yeah, that's what
We couldn't make it look better, right,
right.
we could have a whiteboard where we could have that as a tool.
Yeah, okay. All
So we
right,
would
so.
need to test the lead for lead.
Yeah, and I think, I'm not sure, I mean, there are folks who do lead paint mitigation, but I think you might be able to get a kit to do it.
I have my own deal.
Yeah, to just do the test. So, you want to do that, Eric?
Sure, go
Okay.
ahead, look for you.
Yeah.
Taste of paint. Yeah.
It's very tasty.
Oh, I see Steven's hand again.
Steven, yeah?
So I'm sitting here looking behind Melissa at the offensive wall, and then I look at the storage cabinet to the right of it, and then there's another storage cabinet roughly the same size over as you enter the senior room, and I was thinking, oh, what if both of those were placed right in front of the offensive wall?
There is a bench there, but I guess it could go on the other side, and there's an offensive part of that wall behind that cabinet.
Oh.
This one's already.
This is already hiding something, right?
So we need a few more filing cabinets?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, or the curtains.
Yeah, or the curtains. All right, well,
Pretty easy to paint those, if in fact.
Yeah, we can try paint.
What if there was lead, could we just paint over it, would that encapsulate it sufficiently?
yes, yes. What I was more concerned about, if you're
Sand.
starting to sand something.
Right, because then
Which
you're
we
breathing it
already
in and you're
did.
releasing it.
Yeah, it's already been done.
So
Yeah,
what,
Henry and I did
do we
it, so don't
have, here's my
worry.
question, is do you have to test for lead if you're not gonna sand? if, let's say, we
I
just
would, I would,
decide
I
we're
feel
gonna,
better if we just
if
test
we
it.
test it, okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Probably a good thing to know.
Just so
like,
we
in-
know, yeah,
For now or future,
yeah,
anything.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a much bigger deal in residential properties, but once you just start messing around and people are in the room on a regular basis, if you ever have kids in here, it just, you just don't want to.
Do you know who would test for lead, Steve, or how would we do that lead test?
I don't know of anybody in the area, but I think you would just look under lead testing. But they do, I think, have these little test kits you can buy at the hardware store, and you swab it, I think, and it then starts to tell you if there's lead. If there's, if it comes up negative, it's not the definitive test, but if it comes up positive, then you know you want to have it tested. But if it comes up negative, that's a good starting point for sure.
Right. Okay.
Good, thanks. Michael, did you have a question?
I had a comment actually. I came in the middle of my ears perked up when you were talking about filing cabinets. So I think the two filing cabinets I think Stephen was talking about are ones that we reorganized last year for the planning board, Becky and Carrie and I. And so the two things were it'd be good to keep the planning board files together when they get moved. And if the town wants to buy extra ones, I'm sure we would appreciate that. So just putting it in there.
Okay, all right. Well, I know one thing I have vowed to do, because I know it's going to be fascinating reading, is the report that I think Susie led on record storage. And so I think there was a lot of research done and recommendations made, and that we should all take a look at it to see if there's, as we're looking at all of this, about whether or not any of it makes sense to store off-site, or I know the old town hall. It's just, again, as we're kind of going through and looking at these many files here, I think we have recommendations about what to do, so.
Yeah, whether or not to digitize the records is kind of one of the questions that comes up, I think.
Yeah. Well, we can have some more discussion after we read this, but, yeah, okay, so I think we have
I have a question.
Yeah, go
And
ahead.
it maybe we want to do what we were just talking about first. My thought was, furniture or tables, because I think the street tables aren't functional for us three in a way, where maybe having there's tables that are mobile, you can move them in any types of configurations. So we each could have our own little table and sit kind of so we can see each other. Anyway, that may be for the next step, but
Okay.
it was just a thought too.
Yeah, so just like furnishings, and then I think the big question, once we've kind of come up with our wish list, then we look at at what a budget might be and how far our $2,000 gets us, and then maybe we do some stuff in the next fiscal year, or if we think there's some immediate need, we talk to the finance committee about a small amount of money to. No, we won't talk to the finance committee. Just kidding. Okay, all right. So I think we have a plan. Thanks, Steve and Eric, for taking the lead on that. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is just the select board guide board update, which I will give. So after the last select board meeting, I think it was the last meeting, we had talked to both the Historic Commission and the Building Committee about about the construction of a gazebo over the guide board, and the guide board is currently residing temporarily in Williamstown, and I can't recall, it's like the Williamstown Conservation, it's being restored, our guide board that sits in the middle of town. And the town appropriated CPA funds for the work to be done, and you know, I think it's going to be a beautiful thing. When the Historic Commission first talked to us about it, what they had heard from the Williamstown folks was, you know, we're restoring this. Do you really want it sitting outside after we restore it? Can you find some place to put it inside? And you know, there was some discussion about you know, where it could be placed, that a lot of people would see it. There's very valuable real estate in our new library, and I don't think anybody wanted to take any of that valuable real estate off with putting the guide board in there. We don't have any kind of museum in town. The old town hall is not open to the public, and there's really no place in town hall. So the best solution was to put it, you know, back where it came from, on the town common. So the Historic Commission went ahead and did some preliminary plans for building a structure that would be over the guide board, and then the building committee reviewed those plans and felt that it would, and I'm just going to generalize here, that it would kind of overpower, that moving the guide board and then putting a structure over it would kind of almost defeat the purpose of having this guide board, you know, out and visible, and something that, you know, everybody coming through town could see easily if it were covered. So I was kind of pondering what to do, because the select board has jurisdiction over the town common. So anything that goes onto the town common has to be approved by the select board. And we were, I guess maybe, I missed that discussion at the last meeting. Maybe I
No, you were there for part of it.
Part of it, okay.
Yeah.
So then I suddenly had this thought that, you know, if we were not going to put any sort of structure over the guide board, what else could we do? So I contacted Stephen Smolsky, who is a town resident, who is a internationally known wood scientist, and has quite the impressive resume, you know, deals with all kinds of wood, new, old, failing, and, you know, does consulting from everybody from insurance companies up to the largest builders in New York City, and has done actually international work too. And I called him and I said, Stephen, you know, we have this issue. We're having this guide board restored, and there's concern about its longevity if it's put back, you know, where it was, and that the Williamstown people, you know, had talked about trying to protect it in some way. So he had a number of ideas, asked me some questions about exactly what the Williamstown folks were doing, and then I contacted Matteo Pangallo, who is chair of the Community Preservation Committee, who took, and also on the Historic Commission, and has taken the lead, has been the contact person with the Williamstown folks. And I spoke to him, and I spoke to then Henry Geddes, and also Bert Fernandez, who Henry's the chair of the Historic Commission, and Bert's on the Historic Commission. And what I communicated to them was that Stephen offered to donate his Services to take a look at the guide board. I sent him the information that we'd gotten from Williamstown, and I also sent him the plans for the gazebo. And he has agreed to go out and meet with the Williamstown folks. They were very actually pleased to meet with him, given his background. And he actually had done work at the Clark Museum in Williamstown, so he's worked for a lot of museums. And so he's agreed to do that, and they thought it was a great idea. He wanted to see, and then, I asked if he could come back with some sort of a recommendation to say what would help sustain this structure over the long term. And so he's going to do that, and that's kind of where we are. But I wanted to make sure that the select board was okay with moving ahead. Henry, Bert, and Matteo all thought it was a great idea. So
I know in our previous discussion, we had talked about protecting it from above.
right, but it's below. Stephen, yeah. Well, he asked me a number of questions, and I said, I don't have a set of good photographs, and that's why he decided it would be better if he went out, he met with them, talked to them about what techniques they're using, looked at the guide board, because he's all about, making sure wood survives, and so, I mean, he already had some suggestions just about flashing and where where it got placed, because he said the moisture from below is really kind of your first and foremost concern.
Okay.
But, so that's what he would do, if everybody's in agreement that it makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's great, thanks for doing that, it does make sense to me. If it makes sense that,
To the historic commission, no,
if everybody agrees to it, I think it's a great,
yeah, I
it's a
mean,
great way to proceed.
yeah.
And I thank you for the volunteering.
Oh, yeah,
to do that.
yeah, no, he was actually kind of excited because he hasn't worked directly with the Williamstown people before, but, he worked with the Clark, so, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions?
No?
Okay.
Do you need a vote in any way?
I don't think so, as long as you guys are comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think
As
so.
I said, I sort of covered the other bases, the other committees. Okay, so we're moving along to the special town meeting for November 19th, 2024. Oh, okay, Henry?
Yeah, hi there. I was just curious. I wanted to thank Rita for taking this initiative, first of all. But secondly, I was wondering about the time frame. I suppose this information might get back to us.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen was, if the board voted tonight, he was gonna go out this week.
Oh,
He'd
right.
already been in contact with the Williamstown people, because he didn't want it to get, and I didn't want it to get any further along, because I know they've been stripping it, and so, I just said, I wanted, after we had spoken, and then that the select board was good with it, that, Stephen's, had gotten tentative times for them, either tomorrow or Thursday, he'd be going out there.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's see, we have the special town meeting for November 19th. We now, just to make sure, we're talking about the warrant closing on October 30th, is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Becky, if you could just remind us what we have so far
On the agenda?
on the agenda for the town meeting.
Town meeting, we have, Matteo Pangalo's, town,
Citizens petition.
well, it's the correct word is, it's a petition that is adopted in a town,
Is it a town, it's not a bylaw, is it?
No, it's not a bylaw, but it's a, Grace is not there anymore. Yes,
She's there, she
Okay.
just muted.
It's okay, I'll remember, but it's
Okay.
not just, because when you
It's a
think of it,
non-citizen voting.
it's a binding
Resolution.
town
Citizens are,
Referendum.
right, and citizens petitions are non-binding, so I just
It's
want to
a,
be
it's
clear.
a home rule, it's a home rule petition.
That's,
Okay.
I always think of town.
So it has to go to
rule.
the legislature too
Yes,
then? Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Right, so there is a difference between what we passed at annual town meeting was asking the select board to write a letter to our legislators saying that we had done this.
Okay.
What is being proposed now is a home rule petition we submit to our legislators saying, pass this law that we have requested you to pass just for our town.
Okay. All right. So we have that, and we have.
And we have the track,
The
the
track.
CPA funding
Yep.
of $136,000 for the track.
Yep.
And we have, the library has a correction to, about $1,000 correction, and then some additional requests for, I think, the assistants at the
Okay.
library.
All right.
So
and
it's a budget request.
we
And-
have a public police.
Yes,
Oh,
and we
the
have,
police, right,
And
yeah.
we agreed to
So
have
what's
it,
yes.
we also
And we
agreed
better
to
make
have
it
it as the
first.
first item.
yes,
Okay.
and we have the $25,000 fund being established for private duty details.
And it sounds like we might have another citizens petition, that Mary mentioned
Yeah,
coming
so
up.
that would be 5 articles.
And then I would add another article, which we can discuss more at a future meeting, but I think we are going to need to add some funding into the town administrator line item to account for possibly hiring interim and permanent. But I don't have any kind of recommendation at this point, but we would have that, yeah, later. Okay. All right, good, so we're all set with that. The next item on the agenda is we have a request to sign on to the Northern Rail Trail. What is it, Becky? It's
It's an
I looked at it.
extension.
I know what they,
Making
yeah.
sure it goes all, yeah, so they have to clear a number of miles.
But we are signing what? A letter to,
A letter of support for the legislators who are trying to push this bill through.
okay. So we were asked by Joe Comerford's office to sign this letter of support, and yeah, it would be a great thing if we had, I used to take the train from Gardner into Boston, and I always thought it was the best thing. It would have been a whole lot nicer if I was taking the train from Orange or, somewhere up there, Athol, a little closer. So that's great. I know that they're pushing this in the legislature. So do I hear a motion for the select board to sign a letter of support for the Northern Rail Trail?
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion?
only on Becky, what you
I
sent
see
us
Michael,
as
you have
the
a
town
question?
administrator
Take
says
a
what
quick
you're
question.
gonna
It's actually about the special town meeting, but you didn't see my hand, so I can wait until you're done with this.
Sorry.
do. Oh, but it tells you to switch dates.
Is it something fast?
Right, I know.
Yeah, I just, I was going up the S-curve, so I lost a little bit. You're closing the warrant on October 30th, is that what I heard?
Yes.
And it's the preference of the select board not to have a lot of items on, because it's a special town meeting?
Well, I guess we would judge it by what the nature of the item is and how, whether or not it's appropriate for special town meeting or it should be.
Yeah. I'm asking for ECAC because there's stuff about the climate leader program that we have to get town meeting approval for, which we thought we would do for the annual town meeting because that made more sense, but there's a grant that we could apply for that's due the end of November. So I just wanted to check my facts. I'll communicate with Becky about it separately, but
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, if you could do that, that would be great. Okay. All right, so where was I? We had a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Nikki O'Neill, aye.
Stocker,
Carol, aye. Okay, the next item on the agenda is providing a right of entry for the Army Corps of Engineers to gain access to Lot 032. And quickly, the background on this is that when Mary Ann was overseeing the due diligence on Lot 032, and there were test wells done on, I think there were 9 test wells or something like that done, doesn't really matter, but there was a test well in the back of the property, which showed up some oil in the test well. And so it resulted in DEP getting involved when we reported it. So, Mary Ann, do you want to take it from there and just tell the
Sure. Thanks. So, quite some time ago now, a year and a half ago or so, we presented all of the data that we collected in the course of that environmental investigation to the Army Corps of Engineers, and they accepted responsibility for the contamination of the site and for the mitigation of the site. And so they have now hired a contractor to continue this work. So on September 30th, I met with representatives from the Army Corps of Engineers and the contractors that they hired to continue this environmental remediation in the area of the former radio tower. They outlined the project scope and schedule, and I've shared the slides from the meeting with you. You should have that. The contractor will begin the process by reviewing all of the documentation related to the release, updating the PIP, and creating a set of project plans, and that's all outlined in those slides that I sent you. Field work is currently scheduled to take place in April and May of 2025. They are planning soil and groundwater sampling. They're going to use a membrane interface probe with a hydraulic profiling tool that will give concurrent readings as the borings are performed, and this will inform the placement of additional monitoring wells. Following the initial site work, seasonal sampling will occur. It's too soon to say exactly what phase of construction the driveway and parking area of the library will be in when the Army Corps site work begins. I've asked them to consider methods they might use to protect the surface that they'll have to drive over to get to the road to the back of the site. I've also asked if they can adjust their schedule to complete the field work earlier before the driveway and parking area are under construction. That's really unlikely because of the whole federal contracting process. And so anyway, you have in front of you a form called a right of entry, and that needs to be signed and returned to the Corps before they can begin work. And it outlines that they'll give us 7 days notice before doing any field work, and that they'll be responsible for repairing damage caused by their activities, provided there's sufficient funding for it. And also that the town has the right to withdraw permission by giving them 30 days notice. Any questions?
One question I have is back in the day, you used to access that radio tower by a road off of Pelham Hill Road. Is that not an option? Do you know?
So that sort of pathway off of Pelham Hill Road is, well, so there was, so that property is owned by UMass, and then it leads to a footpath. So that would really require, first of all, they'd have to get permission from UMass to go through their site. And then they would have to cut down trees and mountain laurel to make a path wide enough to get the geoprobe and a vehicle through. Is it conceivably possible? Yes. Is it necessary? Probably not. I think that they're going to be willing to work with us and try and put down some kind of protective surface below the vehicles. I even mentioned to them building like a wooden kind of ramp. So I think it's too soon to tell, because we won't know exactly what phase of the construction we'll be at, because a construction schedule is just a schedule, and according to the schedule now, the subsurface of the driveway and parking area should be done, but not any finished work. And so that doesn't really seem like something that there would be a lot of damage. And if they put down mats like we did over wetland protection areas, that should help, or maybe it won't. So we'll have to see exactly when they want to start and what the conditions are. And then in the meantime, I am going to walk in. I haven't walked in that other way in quite some time, so I'm going to walk in that way and invite the project manager from the Army Corps to walk in with me that way too, before winter sets in, just so that we can see if it really is an option.
Okay, thanks.
Mary Ann, I had a question, actually two questions. The first is that the Army Corps took over the PIP, which is the public involvement, I can't remember.
Yes, public involvement plan, yes.
So that originally was the town's responsibility, and they're fully aware of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And also, because of the wetlands on the site, I assume that they have a licensed site professional working with them, is that correct? So they
Yes.
will deal with
Yes, and I told them that they would likely have to file an RDA with the Conservation Commission. So they're aware of that, and I pointed them to the Conservation Commission's website and our local wetland protection bylaw and regulations.
Okay. All right, great. And is there LSP local? Because are the Army Corps people from out of state, or are they?
So the contractor is from out of state, but the LSP, who the contractor is working with, is from Massachusetts. So the contractor is, let me find the name of the SDC Tidewater is the contractor. And then they've hired, or they have a contract with a licensed site professional who lives in Littleton, Mass. And I'm gonna find her name on this, Kathleen Murphy. She's the LSP. So I think they have to use a Massachusetts LSP because it's the Massachusetts Contingency Program. And they've worked with her before. SDC Tidewater has worked with Kathleen Murphy. I met the project manager and the environmental scientist from SDC Tidewater, and I met the LSP during this meeting.
Great. It'd be good to get that taken care of.
Yes, yeah. I do think it's going to be a multi-year process, but they are responsible for it, and they'll be managing the communications and the all of the requirements with DEP And, and once they put in the wells, that, that'll be one thing, and then they're gonna do seasonal sampling, so it won't involve bringing vehicles out there, on a regular basis. It'll be seasonally, and then the sampling will just be, taking water from the wells and then testing it, to see if the levels fluctuate over time or seasonally.
Okay, any other questions? So you need us to, sign the right of entry, is that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yeah.
Do
And
I-
that's- yes, and if you do that, so all three of you are there, so if you all sign it and then leave it in my box, I will send it to the Army Corps tomorrow.
Okay, great. Do I hear a motion to execute the right of entry for the Army Corps of Engineers to gain access to Lot 032?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace, O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, we'll just go ahead and get my signature on here right now. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the election warrant, which the select board has to approve. And Grace, is there anything, is Grace still here? Yes. Grace, is there anything you want us to know about this election warrant?
Mm, Not especially. It is a pretty standard thing. We need to sign and post the election warrant.
Okay. We don't have that many initiative petitions this year. Is that?
We
small?
no we have 5 ballot questions, which is a pretty good number.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, there's 4. I didn't see 5.
I can tell you just from handling all the ballots and the envelopes and the ballots coming back in the envelopes, they are thicker than usual.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so you just need us to approve this, is that correct?
Approve it and sign it.
That's correct. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the election warrant for the November 5th, 2024 state national election, right?
52 individual elections, not one national.
Oh, okay, 52 individual elections, Melissa
Yeah, state elections.
State elections.
It's just, yeah, we can just call it the November 5th, 2024 state election.
State election, okay. All right, do I hear a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Second, I'm sorry.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I gave Becky a physical copy. You guys will all sign it.
We have it?
They're
Yep.
signing it as we speak, Grace.
As soon as we vote.
Wonderful.
As soon as we vote.
Terrific.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace, O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye.
There was
Okay.
the other document they signed.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Very welcome. Okay, I think we are getting to our last item, which is town administrator transition plans and TA updates.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
That's just the other pages here.
Okay. So I have some news. I interviewed and I've been offered a job as the Sunderland Town Administrator. Wait a minute. That could have crashed, but we're still there.
No, it's okay, it's on.
It's on there. So the situation is a little bumpy at the moment because I had to release the information right away, like it will be potentially here. The decision was made at an open select board meeting, so the select board is also televised in Sunderland. And so the news was available right away and reported at least on one radio or TV station. So it's public that I have been offered this job. I have signed a contingency that on completion of a contract, this will move forward. I have not resigned from Shutesbury yet because I have not yet met to review the contract. So as soon as I do that, my intention is to make that known to the select board as they've been apprised of this. And then we'll be looking at a transition period. I've asked for 30 days from the first discussion. That date came out as the day before elections. And so being the day before elections, it didn't seem wise, so I pushed it out another week. I'd like to not leave a race in chaos. So it's the final date that I'm looking at, if all goes as currently planned, is the 8th of November. As far as transitioning, I have spoken with Rita. She has some ideas about the best way to handle it, potentially with an interim. And we're talking about advertising. I'd like to get it out in the MMA as soon as issues are resolved. I don't want to post something and find out that a job description might have changed it to some extent. So the job description, I think, should be added to the agenda for the Personnel Board's meeting on the 17th.
October 17th?
Yes. So it's about 10 days. It's a week and a half from today. It's on a Thursday.
That's not a good time for me. I think it would be good for the select board to give some input, and you're gone, and I'm gone. I'm gone that
On the
whole week.
17th.
Yeah. How often do you guys meet?
Once a month. Can I talk about this?
About a meeting,
No,
right?
how
Okay,
about
when does
you
they
only
meet?
talk to
Never
me?
mind, once
We
a
don't
month.
have a personnel board.
Okay, we don't have any personnel board. meetings.
Okay,
All right.
so they have the meeting on the 17th.
Yes.
How about, we'll keep with that so that maybe they can have some starter conversation to give you stuff.
Okay.
And then at your meetings you have a
Well, we
meeting.
meet on the 22nd, and then we meet on
So
the
the meeting on the
30th.
22nd, the
Eric's
personnel board, oh, he's still gone.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
Unless you want to push it to the weekend.
no, I don't, you just keep going.
Well, let me just tell you sort of some of my kind of thoughts, and because I don't, I mean, it seems like they're really rushing this at a time when everybody's not going to be available towards the end of October. So, you know, I think what would be very helpful, and I think we need to engage with the personnel committee, but what would be helpful is if we could kind of work together on any changes that we want to make to the job description, and not think about advertising until that we've gone through that process. You know, my sense just from talking to a few people about the hiring process, you know, my concerns are, you know, we're in a very competitive environment now for town administrators. There's been quite a bit of turnover, and there are at least, you know, a couple of the larger communities out there, I think Deerfield maybe, and Hadley, you know, looking for town administrators. So, and we, you know, this is just coming at a time when we have like us being out of town, you being out of town, I'm out of town, town meeting, the election, you know, a lot going on, that for us to think that somehow we were gonna be able to hire in, you know, for the permanent position, when we wanna look at the job description, is way too ambitious, and that what would make sense is to bring somebody in on an interim basis and then go forward. And that's what, you know, a lot of communities, I mean, that's what Sunderland did. A lot of communities do that because if you only give somebody, you know, you can only give a short, relatively short notice, and that's totally understandable. The hiring process itself takes time, advertising, the hiring process, and then if somebody has another job, they have to give notice. And so what we don't want to have happen is that we have nobody here, because I don't think any of the three of us are prepared to step into Becky's shoes, that's for sure. So, you know, the way I'm contemplating it and, you know, wanted to talk about tonight a little bit is just that that is the approach we would take. It would mean, you know, kind of going through two hiring processes that, you know, I think the first would be relatively straightforward. There are a number of people out there. I already, you know, just talked to a few folks, including one of the consultants who helped in Sunderland, about whether there are people, you know, a lot who have retired who come in on an interim, would come in on an interim basis for, let's say, a 2-month assignment until we got through the hiring process. And so that was part of my thinking in, you know, talking about an article for the warrant, because Becky gets paid out all of her vacation time that has been accumulated, that was carried over and then accumulated this year. So we're going to be paying you for, you know, a bit, and, you know, we'll be short in the town administrator line item. So, and I think we're going to have to pay some more money than we're currently paying Becky, is my suspicion just from talking to other folks. So all that being said, you know, what I'd like to do is kind of come up with a plan around meeting with the personnel committee, going through the job description, and then putting together a job description for an interim person, and that at the same time Becky could be working on the, you know, we could be preparing for doing the hiring. So that's kind of, does that make sense?
I think that's really lovely thought out. It makes sense. I think it makes sense.
I think it makes sense. What's your vision of who would be doing the hiring? Just a select board, or with select board with the personnel board, or?
The hiring for
Well,
what?
Let's,
Traditionally, for a major position, it's a larger group, a core of 5 with the select board member included. They do all the.
So we have a search committee.
Yeah, you're gonna have a full search committee. They'll do all the interviewing until the last interview, and then the select board would
Okay.
interview.
Yeah, that's what I was
And then you receive your recommendation from the hiring committee. And then it's, you determine whether you stick with that recommendation or not.
Well, in the case of Sunderland, they had 4 people that they recommended. So, I mean, they didn't have a search committee, and when I spoke with their consultant, she said that was really, you know, she thought that was not great, that they didn't, it was a really kind of a board that doesn't have the depth of experience, and she said she thought, you know, they,
Having a search
having a search committee. So I think, we would have a search committee.
so both the temporary,
No, only the major
temporary
position that stays.
Right.
I don't see the temporary position being a big, a heavy lift. I think, you know, we would find somebody who we think can
It's
just
more
maintain
like,
things.
it'll be more like hiring a consultant.
Right,
Right,
exactly.
right, right.
That'll
Okay,
be here
that's
for a
good. No,
set
that's-
amount of time.
All makes sense to me.
Yeah,
Probably part-time,
yes,
and you'll set the rate.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah. So if that all sounds reasonable, what I could do is just maybe write up and work with you, Becky, just coming up with kind of a plan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
a
to put
timeline.
together a timeline, a calendar,
Mhm.
so we can fit in the advertising. Because, you know, you have this compulsion to start advertising
Right,
right away,
right,
but you
right.
want to be sure
Right.
what you're stating in the
Yeah.
ad is
No, you're right.
what
You're
they're
absolutely right.
looking for.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your being really thoughtful about the timing and the consideration, because I think beyond kind of taking care of all this stuff, it will be a lot of work for you and a lot of a brain dump. I mean, we know some of the stuff, but you are the, you have a lot of the knowledge, the experience, and, we will appreciate your helping us
Sure.
with that, which I know you will. Okay, let's see.
I have a couple items on my TA report left.
Yeah, go ahead.
The first one that was not written down, but is the turkey trot. Needs to be approved by the select board. Is Mary Ann still here? Did she want to brag about the turkey trot?
No,
I guess she's not. I think, she did a wonderful job talking about it recently. The turkey trot has grown from last year. I think if you read the email that has recently gone out, she's added over, they now have 20 vendors, sponsors,
Oh, that's great.
commercial sponsors on top of,
Wow.
so
That's fabulous.
it's really growing. It's gonna be very exciting. Thank you. My other couple of updates are just, some comments on the knotweed. I feel like the knotweed issue has been circling around the select board, keeps touching down and jumping back up. At this point, I've spoken with Beth Wilson on Concom. I know she was anticipating potentially she had given RDA paperwork and to Pam Shevsky, and she had anticipated maybe there was going to be some activity there. From the email we just received from that group, it does not appear they will be moving ahead with the actual work of going to Concom and pursuing this at this point. Board of Health, I also touched base with. They've had a lot of discussions. They do not feel that they can commit to a statement at this point. They've been asked to deem, the situation as a hazardous situation because of the glyphosate. They're still trying to figure out what their role really is statutorily, and this seems to fall outside of it. And that's where they have come down so far. So that leaves the select board and ideas and thoughts you might pursue. I think one idea I had was potentially to go back to the routine we had used before, where we identified an area, whether it's in the wetlands or not, but a bad area, write a proposal, get bids in to do the work. I know Lori Henderson's spin-off company was the person that responded last time with the best program, and potentially have them outline what they would do, what the cost would be, and take that to annual town meeting. So that the cost would need to be approved, FinCom would have to identify a source, and that would shift the discussion to a townwide discussion, which might be a solution to help people either get really invigorated and start ripping out all the knotweed on the roadsides, or find a chemical combination that they feel comfortable with using. But it could take us one step closer to a solution and a way to address the problem.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great to me. I think because there's been so much discussion, not having this board decide in the absence of, the entire picture, and town meeting would probably be the best place to do that. So we proceeded with a proposal saying this is what we could do, this is what it would cost, here's how it would be done. Then we could see, does the town want it or not? And if they don't, then, what else? Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, great. So we can work on that. And the last thing I was going to talk about is the MVP. We've received a grant for $222,000. We are exploring how to best utilize the grant. There's some problems that we've run into with the truck and the amount it will do, so we're exploring 2 other options and getting back to MVP to hopefully get them to allow us to move ahead with some alterations. And that's it for tonight.
Okay. Well,
What about the columns,
Oh, thank you, Eric.
Yeah, then what's on the list?
All right, the other item I wrote down, so the regional fire study is going to begin in phase 2. We did apply for a community compact grant, which we received, $30,000, going to the Collins Center, who will handle the next step of phase 2, which will at some point include public meetings, and the first kickoff meeting for the group of firefighters and town administrators from the 4 communities. Wendell is,
New Salem.
Wendell, New Salem,
Leverett, and
Leverett, and Shutesbury. And we will be meeting on the 23rd of October. So potentially an update for the 3rd.
Okay. And Becky, I just wanted to congratulate you. I hope that the negotiations go the way you want them to go.
Thank you very much.
agree with that.
I had a question. Are they going to pilot the clickers on the 19th of November?
I asked Becky that,
Where, Grace, I don't see.
Grace is there.
Grace, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're there, when, Rita, there you are.
I'm
So,
here.
The issue of whether we could do clickers for the 19th came up. I told Rita I'm concerned that we don't have enough time to do that test run with all you're buried in, but you're the one who knows that best.
That's not an answer, that head shake.
This is the question has been posed to me. Let me sleep on it and I will
Let us know.
let you guys know.
Okay, sounds good.
That's a fair answer.
Thank you, Grace.
All right.
Miriam, I'll take one more question. I have to wrap this up soon.
Oh, you taking?
Miriam?
Yeah, what would be the procedure if a group of neighbors in a neighborhood wanted to tackle controlling with volunteer effort a patch of knotweed in the right of way? I mean, I understand that if it's in a resource area or a buffer zone, they would have to submit an RDA to the Conservation Commission, but in terms of what the select board would they want just notification? Would there be a process?
Yeah, I think notification would be great. And yeah, it would be good to know how that goes.
And Miriam, I just want to be sure after, when it's pulled out, typically the practice that we used before was to spread it on the blacktop in the summertime so that it would dry. And then we bagged it in black bags.
Yeah.
For the trash. Is that a similar follow-up? I'm just, you don't want to pull a bunch of, not weed out and not do the second step, so I assume you're gonna do the second step.
No, absolutely. There has to be, it has to be dehydrated or desiccated, and then it has to be disposed of. So yes, all of that has to happen.
Could it be burned?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I think there's issues with burning, but I'll confirm that.
Yeah.
As long as it's really well dead, it has to be desiccated. And you have to make sure, that you're not leaving roots around that then take root somewhere. So I think it can be, it'd have to be burned according to whatever the regulations. I don't know if somebody had a.
Frank? You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My concern about the clickers is at the all boards meeting, the moderator mentioned that it was a 50-50 to where.
Frank, yeah, I don't want to get into a discussion of the clickers. It's not on the agenda.
Okay, then let me ask you a question about this. Can the poll be published online so that people can see it? They use the town's website to initiate the poll. Why can't we see it?
What poll? We don't
The
know.
survey.
What poll.
The survey that was done?
The survey for the clickers, that's all I'm asking, because I bring up the discussion that at one town meeting, at the All Towns meeting, it was a 50-50, and at the last meeting the moderator spoke, it was a 60-40. I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
Just asking.
I'd like to see the data before it goes on to a special town meeting.
It's not a vote on the clickers. It was more a test run to show people how they work versus it's not an appropriation to put the clickers into use. It would be more a demonstration.
Is a positive that the town is positively going that way. So why don't we see where the data was first?
I think it would be a demonstration to see do people like it or not like it.
So people would be more in a position to know what we were talking about.
Yeah, if you voted if it came up on the warrant at town meeting.
They can put this online. Just asking.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have to go.
Okay.
So, do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying
Make
aye.
Neil aye.
All right.
Carol, aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.